Hey, everybody, it's Scott Steen with winnersandwhiners.com coming to you with Today in Sports Betting, the Tuesday edition. And because it's 2020, of course, it's an NFL game here on Tuesday night. Man, Scott, getting spoiled on these extra NFL games?
Definitely spoiled because there's nothing else on TV and you have to watch an NFC East team play. What a time to be alive, isn't it?
Well, I'll tell you what, the NFC East did okay yesterday. You're allowed exactly 60 seconds to gloat about your Washington pick against my Steelers pick. So go ahead. Tell us all about that game.
Well, first of all, I'm offended you also didn't mention the under versus the over because I also had you there. But not surprised. Tomlin's teams play down to their competition all the time. I mentioned on air that all Ben Roethlisberger does is imitate Mike Leach's system of just dumping the ball off 3 yards in the air every time. That's exactly what they did. They took basically no deep shots the entire game. Washington, I really thought they were kind of screwed once Gibson got injured because, of course, he's such a big weapon for them. But I guess they just decided not to cover Logan Thomas or even McKissick out of the backfield for pretty much the entire second half. But I'm not surprised. Tomlin calls out his entire team, blah, 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 the ooh-rah-rah speech. And it turns out his team didn't do anything because they played down to the competition. They got cocky up 14 points. And Washington was in desperation mode, and they pulled it out. So props to Washington. They hung on pace with the Giants after they ended up upsetting Seattle. Pittsburgh, not surprised. I know you're thrilled about it because Kansas City now is closer to getting the 1 spot. I said if Pittsburgh got the 2 and Baltimore got the 6, I would take Baltimore to beat Pittsburgh in the first round, and nothing really changed from that. So really, really short version. Na. I told you so. Yeah, that's pretty much all I got.
Yeah, it was a good thing that I refrained from sending that text when they were up 14-zip.
It would have been a true Scott Steen jinx, though. That would have been your signature move.
I would have taken complete blame for that. So it went exactly the way I thought it would there for the first quarter. Pittsburgh was able to do what they wanted to. Stuff Washington. Gibson was hurt. Of course, he was on my fantasy team. So I needed some points out of him, and so I figured we were in great shape. My fantasy team was screwed, but I figured we were in good shape there as far as the bet went. But you know what? That's the way it goes. And again, as a Chiefs fan, I'm happy. He does get us one step closer. Pittsburgh still needs to lose another game with the Chiefs to run the table. But you know what? You can't get to 2 losses until you get to the first one. So we'll see. Now, do you think this is going to be you think this is just a sign of a slide for Pittsburgh, or is it just a bump in the road and they end up running the table?
I'm kind of torn. I mean, the main reason why I picked Washington to win the game was because of the fact that the rest advantage for Washington was huge. They played on Thursday. Pittsburgh had played so many games in a row. What felt like, I don't know, three games in like 10 days. It felt that way. But the issue I have is with the offense. I don't know what the story is, but they really just never throw the ball downfield. And I know that I give quarterbacks – I know Philip Rivers has thrown it down occasionally, but I give Philip Rivers some crap for it and some other of these old quarterbacks, Brady, who hasn't been accurate down the field. I don't know if – I know Big Ben got injured in the Cowboys game a couple weeks ago, and I don't know if that's still impacting him. He has just not thrown the ball deep at all the last 2 weeks. And whenever passes he does throw deep, it looks like he lollipop throws them. There's a lot of airtime under them. I don't know if there's something up going on with his leg or something, but he's stepping into none of these throws.
Yeah, I noticed that yesterday when he took his first sideline shot down the field about 35 yards, and it was just a rainbow. So I don't know. It's the more part that's, I don't know if it's more troubling, but it's certainly equally troubling, is the fact that he's throwing 51 times a game. He's throwing 51 times 2 games in a row. That is not going to be a path for success for
It's literally Mike Leach's system. I'm not exaggerating. They're throwing it 50-something times in every pass within 5 yards.
Yeah, they're throwing all those little tunnel screens, bubble screens, just ridiculous shit that just, you're just trying to hopefully get 5 yards out of it, and sometimes you get blown up for -2, -3.
Didn't help that Pittsburgh's receivers dropped a ton of passes also. That didn't help.
Well, you know what? We have been victimized by that repeatedly. The other night we had a game where it really cost us. But Pittsburgh. But the bottom line is, if you can't stop Alex Smith without their best running back, with your vaunted defense, I don't like your chances. I just don't.
Well, you can't stop Alex Smith with no running back. I
That's
mean,
what I'm saying. Without their best running back.
yeah, I don't count Peyton Barber as a legitimate starting running back in the NFL.
No.
I'll tell you what the serious problem for Pittsburgh is going to be. It's the fact that if they don't get the bye, let's say that Kansas City ends up going 15-1, Pittsburgh goes 14-2, right? Let's say something like that happens, whatever. The issue for Pittsburgh is the fact that their bye week, because of COVID and everything, will be week 4. And now that the 2 seed won't get a bye, that means they'll have to play weeks 5 through 17 in a row, followed by a playoff game in the opening round, which is an absolute disaster for Pittsburgh because they're going to be exhausted, and it seems like they're already showing signs of some openings in the armor.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely true. Now, I do still think Pittsburgh's going to get the 1 seed. The Pittsburgh, the schedule for the Steelers certainly is advantageous compared to the Chiefs, who still have to go on the road to New Orleans and Miami.
I think it's close because Pittsburgh next week playing at Buffalo.
Yeah.
And then you also play at home against Indianapolis. On the road against Cleveland, I don't really care because Cleveland, don't get me wrong, they could beat them. It wouldn't surprise me, but Steelers tend to have Pittsburgh's number. Steelers tend to have Cleveland's number, I should say.
Cleveland's that team that's shown they can beat anybody at any time or lose to anybody at any time.
Well, they showed that last week as they went up 30 in the first half, and then they proceeded to get outscored by basically 27 in the second half.
Cleveland, well, I don't count. I don't count games where you're blowing them out.
Oh, I know. I'm just saying they didn't exactly do a good job of blowing it open because they did need to recover an onside kick late in that game. So it doesn't mean much to me. Cleveland definitely looked great against Tennessee, whose defense is an absolute disaster that we've talked about for several weeks. But at Buffalo next week, not ideal. How the hell do they have Cincinnati versus Pittsburgh on Monday Night Football in Week 15? Are you serious?
Joe Burrow.
No, I know. I'm just saying this is why you need to flex out Monday night games. I got to see Brandon Allen against Pittsburgh. Okay, that's fun. The Colts, I think, are a serious threat as well. That game at Buffalo next week, I like Buffalo in that one, so we'll see what happens there with Kansas City.
It's hard not to like the Bills after seeing them what they did to San Francisco, who'd been actually showing signs of life. And I actually liked San Francisco last night. The line movement, we were ahead of the line movement. We got Pick'em, and it was -2 by game time. And Buffalo just proceeded to curb stomp them.
Yeah, I know that when I talked about the game, I said on the show, I think Buffalo's the better team, but I got to trust the line movement. So my read, I guess, was right, except all the steam was just completely wrong.
Yeah.
Now that I think about my breakdown for the game, I basically said that I thought Buffalo's the better team, but I liked the line movement for San Francisco. I thought they'd run the ball more, which they didn't do. Everything I said about Mullins is correct, and I think you might agree with that. I don't know how C.J. Beathard's worse.
It certainly couldn't be any worse than what we saw last night.
I've seen Mullins play numerous times. He's a terrible quarterback. And I found it really funny how the announcers, they're so obligated to not offend any of the fans that they just keep saying this about some players, he's got talent. He's pretty good. He's going to work on it. I'm like, have you been watching this guy? He's awful. What are you talking about? Like, Mullins is a terrible quarterback. And, they can't say it on the air because they feel bad about offending somebody on national television or his family who's watching. But I don't know how much proof you need to see in order for you to determine that Nick Mullins is not an NFL quarterback.
Well, I guess they need Jimmy G back to compete, but I think it's getting to be too late for the Niners there, buddy.
All I know is I've seen Beathard in a limited sample size against, for example, Philly in that Sunday night game, and he was great late in that game. Of course, there was some garbage time in there. You got to switch it up at some point because Mullins ain't it.
Yeah, we'll see what they do going forward. All right, so let's talk about this game tonight, man. 2 teams still in contention for playoff spots, but out of the picture right now.
Oh, God.
Right?
Oh, God.
As Dallas heads up to Baltimore to take on the Ravens. The Ravens 8-point favorites in that one, and the total is still 45.5 last time I checked. Yes, it is. So, actually, that game has now gone to 9, Scott, the update there.
Okay, that doesn't surprise me. On
the Ravens, went from 8 when we capped it last night to 9. What do you got?
So I have a player prop on this one for my play today, but for this actual matchup, I gotta take Baltimore. I'm also going to lean to the under, specifically the Cowboys team total under. I'm a huge fan of that play. I know the Ravens might be missing some people in the defense, but Cowboys offensive line's a disaster. We all know it. They used to be really, really good. Zach Martin got announced out for the year earlier this week, which he should be because this team's terrible and there's no point in using him when he's basically his one leg. The whole offensive line's injured. A bunch of backups, not very good. Andy Dalton's had a lot of history against this Baltimore team, but that means Baltimore has a lot of history with Andy Dalton, so they know exactly what he does well, what he doesn't do well. I think Harbaugh and company should have a pretty solid defensive game plan. Baltimore's going to eat up a ton of clock. The Cowboys are the worst rush defense in the league in terms of rushing yards per game and rushing yards per carry. They're dead last in both. They can't stop the run to save their lives. Baltimore's second in the league in rushing yards. I expect a ton of ground and pound, especially with Andrews out and Willie Snead most likely being out. I think that Baltimore's going to eat up a ton of clock, and the Cowboys maybe can move the ball, but I do expect a ton of dump-off passes, pretty much the Andy Dalton special. Maybe a couple of deep passes to Cooper and Lamb, but Ravens secondary is very good, and I think that they should be up for the task. So for me, I think this will be a hideous game of football. I know that I roasted Pittsburgh for not having any rest and how that's going to play a big deal because the Washington had not played since Thanksgiving. It's the same exact situation tonight, and I'm taking the Ravens.
Yeah,
but part of that's because of the fact that the Ravens are in must-win territory, where Pittsburgh, I don't want to say they could have afforded a slip-up because they had, I'd say, an extra game in their pocket there.
Right.
But if Baltimore loses this, they're screwed. Like, this is DEFCON 1. Mm-hmm. They need to win this game. So for me, I think they'll stick to the game plan. Assuming Lamar doesn't look that bad following COVID, which we've seen in the past from Cam Newton, who looked like a different player when he came back from COVID against Denver. I think Lamar's going to have a pretty solid game on the ground. I think that he'll throw it occasionally with some play action stuff. Mostly a fate of this Cowboys team because they are awful. And after they showed complete quit on Thanksgiving against Washington, I saw the same thing last year when they quit against Buffalo on Thanksgiving, and the team never really rebounded. So for that reason, I'm going to take Baltimore, and they'll win probably by around 13 or so. Low-scoring game. I'd say, 27-13.
Yeah, I always hate to come on the show and just totally both of us are on the square side here, but
I can't take Dallas. I can't.
There's no way to play that team, and they certainly could step up, but man, you look at that offensive line.
It's battered.
They're down to one starter that they had that was projected to be a starter in preseason. So, they were down to Cam Irving playing left tackle, and he's awful. I can tell you from his years with the Chiefs, and now he's out. Mm-hmm. So, I don't even want to see. I guess they're going to have Brandon Knight in there.
They got Beatus, the Wisconsin guy, as at the center spot, who I said was an underrated prospect, who I think has actually been okay. But Connor Williams, not a fan of. You go down the line, really not great, especially when you're missing your two bell cow offensive linemen in Zach Martin and La'el Collins, who hasn't played all year.
Right.
Those two guys make such a monumental difference. It's the equivalent of the Texans' offensive line without Tunzel. It's just completely useless at that point. And I think Baltimore should just demolish them at the line of scrimmage. I'm not saying it's going to be Arizona Cardinals Monday Night Football bad for the Cowboys, but if they can't protect Dalton and they can't create any running room for Elliott, which I do not think they'll be able to, they're going to have some serious problems.
Yeah, I agree. It's hard to see. It's hard to see where the points are going to come from this Dallas team. I don't know. It's going to have to be a big play. It's going to have to be some sort of defensive screw up. Let somebody get behind them and have Andy Dalton complete one down the field. I don't know how they're going to sustain a drive and pick up 4 or 5 first downs marching down the field against that defense.
Sorry, you can finish your point. Sorry about that.
You're good.
Oh, so I was going to say another thing that I really don't like, especially since shocker alert, I root for the Cowboys as well. I'm a Cowboys and Jets fan, so my life has been miserable for the last couple of years. But at the end of the day, I've watched countless times where Kellen Moore has looked like a capable offensive coordinator, and then I've seen countless times where I've no idea what he's doing. I still don't know how good of a coordinator he is. I don't think McCarthy having the, I'd say, final say on some matters does him any solids, because I think from what we've all learned from this year, whether Jerry Jones wants to admit it or not, I think McCarthy's tenure in the NFL is pretty much done for.
Does he get another year?
I'm not going to try to predict what Jerry Jones is going to do. I think he should be fired. I think he should have been fired already. I think Jones will keep him for a year. I think he'll blame it on Dak's injury, and they'll say, we got another year and blah, blah. He's not any good, but they just paid him so much money that Jerry, with his ego, doesn't want to admit how much of a colossal failure this hiring was when you had some good options on the road. Now, if you potentially get an Eric Bieniemy, I think that's a separate story. But I think that based on what I've seen so far from Jerry and just his tenure and whatever you want to even call it, he's basically sabotaged the entire Cowboys team for the last 20 years. But I think he's too stubborn to change anything. I think McCarthy will be back, and I think that they're going to hope and pray that Dak coming back is somehow going to fix the defense, giving up 30-something points per game.
How surprised were you when you woke up this morning and found out Anthony Lynn still had a job?
I wasn't surprised because I think when I think of awful owners, Spanos is on the very, very short list of those terrible owners, not just the way that he has screwed over just families in local areas and everything like that. But, yeah, he's not exactly the greatest owner when it comes to personnel decisions. And Anthony Lynn, the quote that made me laugh was when, besides keeping him, the Chargers said before that they'd made a decision, like, quote, we have a lot of respect for everything that Anthony Lynn does. And I'm like, are you talking about off the field? Because I do agree he's a very good humanitarian.
Right.
But the dude can't coach. I've said this for over a year. And I've said this on air for over a year. You've heard me say this. He can't coach.
Probably the worst game day coach in the NFL right now.
It's either him or Fangio. McCarthy is awful for fourth down, fake punt stuff, and for going for it against the Rams on like 4th and 3, but occasionally he'll make the right decision. I feel like Lynn, he has all the right answers because nobody can be wrong 100% of the time unless you know all the answers. It's like someone getting a 0 on a test. Like, it's basically impossible because you have to guess right eventually.
Well, who's got more talent? You think the Chargers have more talent than the Cowboys? I mean, because that'll help us figure out who's the worst coach.
Health-wise, 100%.
What's that?
Health-wise, 100%.
Yeah, I mean, the guys that have
You're
been
comparing Justin Herbert to Andy Dalton. You still have Bosa on the defensive line. You still got Ingram. Even the secondary. I know they ended up trading Desmond King, but Casey Hayward's still very good. Not Casey. I'm drawing a blank on it. Is it Hayward?
Yeah, that's.
I'm drawing a blank on his name. Sorry, but either way, they got a solid They got a solid number one corner, who I think is very solid.
Good receivers.
The receivers are also very good. You got Keenan Allen, who's a wide receiver 1.
Yep.
Fringe top 10. I'd probably put him in the back end of the top 10.
Very close.
Mike Williams, solid deep threat. He's always injured, but he's still solid.
Yep.
Hunter Henry, top 10 tight end, arguably top 5 tight end because the tight end position's pretty weak.
Agree.
And the offensive line's not great, but, neither is Dallas's. So I think that, as of right now, Anthony Lynn has underachieved the most with the talent he has.
All right, I agree.
So,
it'll be interesting to see.
I think Fangio sucks in-game stuff, and you could agree with that with all the timeouts he holds on to and everything. Like, he's so bad.
I don't see Elway giving him another year. We've seen Elway's. Here's a question, and I know we got to go. We've rambled a lot, but how long does Elway get? How long do we keep pretending that Elway is some sort of football personnel genius?
But you know how hard it was for him to find the diamond in the rough that was Peyton Manning? If he doesn't have Peyton Manning, he would have been fired 4 years ago.
You got to think so.
If you look at all the quarterbacks he's had, he's taken so many quarterbacks just solely based on height, and they're all terrible.
Yeah. Every
single one of them. I know Osweiler had a stretch in the Super Bowl run where he was actually okay during the regular season, but so that caused Houston to pay him like $70 million, so shout out to Houston. But looking at all these quarterbacks, you go through the line, you're throwing in names like Paxton Lynch that people forgot about. Like, they were so bad that people forgot that they even existed. Out
of the league.
Yeah, it's a disaster when you've looked at all the pieces that he's tried to fit in. He's a terrible talent evaluator, but he's the greatest player in Broncos history, and he's got the ring. And that's, I guess, enough to keep some people around. For example, Doug Peterson. Not just the GMs, but if you have a ring, even What's the name of the Eagles GM? Howie Roseman?
You got me, buddy.
I think it's Howie Roseman. I think. Either way, he's terrible. And the Eagles fans can attest to it. He is an awful GM who lucked into winning a Super Bowl. And because of that, people feel like he's untouchable. And I am right. He is the GM of the Eagles. But in reality, I think a fluke run by Nick Foles coming in and doing what he did. And don't get me wrong, giving props to the Super Bowl. They were great in the run. But, yeah, you took Jalen Hurts in the second round. You took Jalen Reagor over Justin Jefferson, which was laughable at the time, and it even aged worse. I know Reagor looked good on Sunday. Congratulations. Justin Jefferson's arguably a top 15 receiver in the league already, and he's only played in about 12 games.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's a disaster. You look at everything they've done with this team, Howie Roseman overpaying for Darius Slay, trading for him. He's been a disaster.
We talked about that in our offseason show that Slay had a really rough season his last year at Detroit. It looked like his skill set was definitely diminishing.
It's a repeat of the Asamoah signing or acquisition they had a couple years ago, where they brought him in and he was supposed to be great and he was terrible. So you have a lot of – basically what I'm trying to say is that the ring can be quite blinding at times because it seems like a lot of owners can't look past the ring and they keep people around for way longer than they should. And I think that's the perfect case for Elway. It's the perfect case for Howie Roseman. Back to Lynn, I don't really know what they're thinking, but he doesn't deserve a job. Fangio doesn't deserve a job. McCarthy doesn't deserve a job. There's a lot of really, really unfit people in positions.
They deserve a job. They just don't deserve the head coaching job.
Yeah, maybe in the CFL.
Well, they're good coordinators.
That's the thing, though, is you look at McCarthy and people who came out of retirement. McCarthy's not going to go back to a position coach job. He's done. I think Fangio can go back to a defensive coordinator because he was a very good defensive coordinator.
Right.
But at the end of the day, Anthony Lynn's probably done in the league. I think Mike McCarthy's done in the league. I think Fangio will stick around because he's a good defensive coordinator. But
Anthony Lynn will be coaching somewhere next year.
Maybe a position group.
Yeah. No, he'll be a coordinator.
Yeah. Maybe. I don't know.
We'll see. All right. All right, bud. So you and I are both on the square pick here.
Yeah, it was about a 20-minute video, and we talked for the game about 7 minutes. But
yeah, I know.
There really wasn't much to talk about because
look, the Ravens run the ball. Cowboys can't stop the run. They're banged up on the offensive line. It's hard to see where they're going to get anything going offensively.
Whatever happened to all those rumors about Cowboys players not trying on plays and quitting on McCarthy? Do you think those magically went away in the last 4 weeks?
I know the rumors did.
Correct.
I don't think the problem did.
That's what I'm saying. I don't think losing to Washington on Thanksgiving in blowout fashion is going to suddenly cause a spark in this team. Plus, if the Cowboys go down early, there are some teams like Washington that are going to fight for Rivera. They're going to try to come back.
Yeah.
Cowboys go down 10-0. Pack the bags.
Yeah, they're starting the car.
They're starting the cars. Like it's over.
Yep, agreed. All right, there you go, bud. All right, guys, that's it. That's our take on tonight's Tuesday night football game. Of course, if you're looking for more information, a little deeper dive, you can always check out winnersandwhiners.com. Got the finest handicappers in the world over there writing articles on each and every game, so that is definitely your one-stop shop for all your sports betting needs. And yeah, we hope you guys do well on this one. We'd like to know how you got it played. I know there's some Cowboys fans out there. So do you think the Cowboys step up here and take care of the Ravens? They do have the rest advantage, and Scott really liked that yesterday, and today means nothing. So,
yeah.
Although in fairness, Steelers were on one less day.
I weigh McCarthy against rest advantage, and I have a feeling that their game plan will not be as sharp as it should be. That's all I'm going to say.
If you have vector practice time and you practice stupid, it doesn't really matter, does it?
Correct.
All right. So for myself, for Scott Reichel, for all of us over here at Winners and Whiners, we appreciate you guys watching. Hope every one of those tickets in your pocket turns into cash money back at the window. You guys take care. Have a great day. Stick around. Scott and I are going to be talking about the 3 top college basketball games tonight. So you know what? Just relax, hit next, and we'll just see you then. All right, you guys take care. Have a great day. We'll see you next time on Today in Sports Betting. Bye-bye, everybody.